Okay, so Thanksgiving season. Obviously, you look into Mary Baker Eddy's writings, and not much on Thanksgiving. Oh, yeah, we have the Thanksgiving service. There is that little essay in miscellaneous writings on Thanksgiving dinner, which was pretty cool. And then she has a note on in First Church and Miscellany about the first Thanksgiving after the original edifice was built and in use. So not much there for inspiration. So I delved into JSH and I found this amazing journal article of March 1898 by W.M. Crittenden titled Thanksgiving. So here it is. About 19 months ago, my attention was called to Christian Science by a friend whose wife had been greatly benefited by it. Prior to this time, I had run the gauntlet of infidelity, theosophy, suggestive therapeutics, hypnotism, materia medica, Ralstonism, more hypnotism, and finally landed in spiritualism. But never for one moment during 25 years was I satisfied or happy. I was constantly reaching out for the truth. With all this dense fog surrounding me, this so-called great intelligent mortal mind constantly informed me that I was one of the favored few who possessed enough independence to stand boldly out in the light and let the deluded Christians, poor, misinformed, slavish people, thought I, live in their mirage. I went to a Christian Scientist with all the assurance and pride of one who knows all that is worth knowing of spiritual things, and my shell had grown so hard that it required fully 6 months of her most faithful work to crack it, so to speak, and let in the light. It is at this point that I commenced to get faint glimpses of truth. And oh, what a terrific fall for mortal mind. All the dear isms and theories of the past totally destroyed. And what a terrible summing up. There I stood, healed of blindness since infancy, blindness to all that constitutes true manhood. There I was on the holy threshold of Christian Science, seemingly without a prop to lean upon. The false foundation cut out from under me. I was degraded morally, mentally, physically. I had suffered great torture for 25 years with eczema, catarrh, and scrofulous acne, with variations of severe dysentery in summer and headache in winter. I drank liquor and used tobacco all this time until there were few intoxicating drinks or varieties of tobacco that I had not used. Lust, hatred, and malice held high carnival with me, and I lost friends and everything else worth having except my dear wife. And had it not been for Christian Science, she too would have been gone from me, either to another plane of thought or to live apart on this plane. Having had over 10 years' experience as a druggist, I was in touch with the flower of the medical profession and had access to the best treatment known. Remedy after remedy failed and wore out with me. Dieting was of no avail. Change of climate likewise failed. In this condition, after all material means had failed to bring physical relief, and the wise counsel of friends and the long and patient entreaties of a good wife had failed to reform me, I knocked at the door of Christian Science. Not in the meek spirit of one who had seen the error of his ways, not in the spirit of the prodigal son who was penitent and desired forgiveness, but in the sense of the self-righteous Pharisee. According to my calculations, I was about as good a fellow as one would wish to meet in a day's travel, and I often wondered why it was that men of my own stamp were not more plentiful. Of course, in this frame of mind, I charged up all my faults, trials, and shortcomings to circumstances and my so-called personal enemies, too blind to see that a man's foes shall be they of his own household. It is needless to say that I was lovingly received. Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures were put into my hands, and I was asked to read. And I did read most industriously, and the more I read, the more error was uncovered. The little book threw a light on the Holy Scriptures that caused me to look upon them with reverence, to read and believe. Heretofore I had been a scoffer. I read in Proverbs 16, verse 7. When a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him. Having already learned that, quote, a man's foes shall be of thy own household, unquote, my hatred for the old personal enemies began to vanish, and I cast about to uncover these household enemies and rout them. Here again, the little book came to my aid with the following paragraph. Lust, hatred, and dishonesty make a man sick, and neither medicine nor mind can help him permanently, even in body, unless they make him better morally, and so deliver him from his destroyers. Mortal body and mind are one. The heat of hatred, inflaming brutal propensities, the indulgence of evil motives and aims will make any man who is above the very lowest type of manhood a hopeless sufferer. They consume the body with the fires of hell. And reading farther on, I found that I had for many years been harboring in these vices an army of conspirators against health, happiness, and success. That's Science and Health, page 403. Right here, I set about to obey the command to master these propensities. And let me say that I never realized what a battle was until these errors began to lift their united voices. But thanks to the little book and the unfaltering effort of my teacher, my measure of success has been great. Even in these few months, I am become as one born into a new existence. Now I recognize the force and truth of the Apostle Paul's saying, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God. Romans 8:28. In the month of November 1896, my wife and I had the privilege of taking class teaching with the one who first pointed the way to us. From a skeptic and a scoffer, I had been converted to Christianity, from an immoral man to a moral one, and from physical disability to good health. My wife had been grievously troubled with various physical ailments, which culminated about 2 years ago in a combination of claims. She had constant and faithful care and could not have had better treatment in the line of materia medica. She was bedridden for nearly 8 months. Then tried a change of air, but all to no purpose. For she was down again when she returned, suffering for another period of 4 months. When she got about, but still felt weak, discouraged, and in constant fear that a surgical operation would be necessary, from which we felt that she had few chances of recovery. Now came in science. After rising for the second time and remaining practically an invalid for 7 months, she took 4 weeks treatment and was healed. She had been a constant reader of our leader's works that has steadily improved in strength and happiness. Today, she is strong and well, and our home is happy. We are trying our best to do the Master's work and never miss an opportunity to speak out for Christian Science when the still small voice dictates, albeit we occasionally meet with bitterness from quarters whence we least expect it. Nothing but the hand of divine providence through Christian Science could have done the things that we have experienced during the past 19 months. And we feel so grateful that we would not barter the little knowledge we have of Christian Science for all the wealth and position that the world can bestow. When we think of the long and dark struggle our leader has passed through, that we may be enabled to see the light, when we consider the flood tide of bitter opposition she has stood against, when we remember the nagging of plagiarists and the cold ingratitude of the unfaithful ones who partook of the fountain through our mother's kindness, and like the lepers of old, return not to give thanks. When we add to these trials the many contingent cares she has borne that we know not of, then our hearts go out to her in gratitude, and we join in expressing our sincere thanks to her, through whose labors of love we have been delivered from the bondage of mortal sense into the sweet, life-giving realities of truth and its law of eternal harmony, peace, and love.